Salmon of knowledge, it's a salmon of knowledge, it's a salmon of knowledge, Edwin Salmon of knowledge, it's a salmon of knowledge, Edwin Salmon of knowledge podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Edwin Salmon of knowledge. Guess what? I've got some news. Along with being a little bit older, I'm also a little bit healthier because I've decided after many years of smoking cigarettes, I've decided to quit. And it's been easy enough, apart from I feel like my voice has gotten kind of shit. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's like my lungs are clearing out all the blackness, all the pure evil that I've been huffing into my lungs. As a doctor once told me years ago, I went to I had like a chest infection that was brought on by smoking and being kind of overweight. This is back when I was about, 19, 20 maybe. And he said, in a real kind of, stop smoking, you idiot. He said, well, you're inhaling smoke into your lungs. That can't be a good thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe he's right. So it was a combination of that and kind of sort of being overweight. And I used to get these sort of chest infections just brought on from just bad diet, no exercise, and smoking cigarettes. And I remember I quit before. I don't remember now. I remember because that's how Irish people think when they're thinking of the past. They leave out the re, but they keep the member. Oh, matron. And it was a case of, I was living in Cork and I was in college and I decided that I was going to quit smoking. And I did. I quit smoking, I'm 43 now. I started smoking when I was 16. Actually, to go back to the beginning of my smoking career, I went for an interview and to become a professional smoker. And they said, look, we don't think you have it in you to be a professional smoker because you haven't been inhaling. And I said, okay, well, that's true. I was, smoking but not inhaling with my friends, just like Bill Clinton. He was there. I'd pass it over and say, suck it down deep into your lungs, Bill. And he'd go, all right, I'll suck this into my lungs. But he didn't. And then he'd play the saxophone for an hour and a half. So we stopped hanging out with him. We'd just go play football and we wouldn't tell him. And then he'd show up and be, hey guys, I thought you said you were going to be smoking and now you're playing football. I'm Bill Clinton. Time to pay the bill. So that was when I was 13. We used to go to the woods and we'd smoke every cigarette imaginable without inhaling. And then when I was 16, I started drinking and I started smoking cigarettes. I can't even remember the first cigarette that I had. It was probably Carol's cigarettes, which were the Irish brand of cigarettes. As a friend of mine used to say jokingly, if you're going to die, you better die for Ireland, which I thought was incredibly patriotic and unhealthy, all in one thing. And we used to go down the road from the school at lunchtime to smoke cigarettes at lunchtime, and you'd smoke out the back, and some lads would smoke inside the school in the toilets, which was you could get expelled for that, but they were they were the tougher guys. And I used to get really nervous when people were doing that. I was quite the nervous, sort of shy, retiring, sensitive child. How I grew up to become this big, hairy, bearded, scary man, I'll never know. Well, actually I will. It's just genetics and male pattern baldness and a abundance of testosterone. But I used to get afraid sitting standing in the toilets because I thought that the smell of smoke would get onto my uniform and some teacher with really finely attuned senses would smell it off me and I'd be expelled from school. I was just nervous about I don't know why, because I didn't really like school that much. It would have been actually great to be expelled, but and you would have got some street cred as well. He was expelled, and the rumors would have gone around like, why was he expelled? I think it would have went from Chinese whispers would have made it go from like, oh, he was smoking in the toilets to he murdered a lad for looking at him the wrong way, and it would have been like, yeah, mess with that Sammon, he'll fucking kill you. So yeah, we used to go drinking in the hills with friends of mine. We'd go drinking flagons of cider and smoking cigarettes. And for a long time, I smoked Marlboro Lights. I smoked Marlboro Reds for a time because I thought I'd actually smoke less if I smoked Marlboro Reds, because Marlboro Reds were so strong. You'd smoke one and then it'd take you like a half an hour to recover from that before your lungs would have the capacity to ingest more smoke, which is kind of a dumb way of looking at it. But then, you know, smoking is kind of a dumb thing. But, you know, what can you say? It's addictive. So, yeah, smoked for like, yeah, maybe 4 years. And then I was like around 1920, not the year, my age, I decided, okay, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. And this was very difficult because at that time you could still smoke in pubs. I think it's probably easier now that you can't smoke in a pub. You have to go out to the smoking area to smoke. Probably makes it a little bit easier to quit, because if you're indoors and you can smoke, you don't have to move to smoke. That makes it an awful lot easier to smoke. It's like any time I've been in a lock-in situation, and I've been in a few lock-ins from time to time, and if you're locked in, you know, immediately you feel special. You feel like you're in that kind of top 1 percentile of special alcoholics that get to stick around with the owner of the pub and smoke and have more drinks. And like, I've been in situations where it's been like, you know, because a lock-in happens at, you know, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And it's like, it's almost like a kind of a secret society thing where people are walking around and they're going, all right, just listen, there's going to be a lock-in. You're going to be part of the lock-in, but don't say nothing to no one. Just, you know, keep it under your hat. But the knowledge is there in your brain. You're special, is what I'm saying to you. You're a special drinker, and you're going to be drinking special drinks with all the other special people. We're the best. They're a bunch of shite. Keep it under your hat. Don't say nothing. We'll have a great night. And it's like they get everyone else out. They get all the normal people out. And then they lock the doors. The beer starts flowing. And I've been in those situations. And usually in those situations, I'm done. Like I'm full. I'm drunk. I don't think I could drink anymore. I kind of don't want to smoke anymore, because that's the thing. If you're drinking and smoking a lot, you're full. Your stomach is full. You're see, there you go. That's the evil blackness working its way out of my system. Oh, I think, yeah, I can feel it. It's like I'm being exercised, but in a real way, not in a fake way. Like there is a demon inside me, but it is the demon of tar and nicotine. Yeah, I'm full, especially if I'm drinking Guinness, because that really does fill you up. It is it's a meal in itself, and you do get kind of full. You can kind of feel it in your stomach, and your throat and your lungs are kind of sore, and you don't want to, but you kind of feel obliged to. In fact, you feel like it would be a waste if you didn't. So lock-ins are they're a bad thing from the perspective of people wanting to quit smoking. And I remember I actually quit, and this is the shitty thing, I quit for like a year and a month, I think, or a year and 2 months. I was like about 14 months. It's kind of how you describe the age of a child, is how I'm describing the length of time I quit smoking initially. And I felt pretty good, but it kind of hits you in waves. You have little kind of humps along the way. Like I think a month into quitting, you have this like undesirable undesirable. You have this undeniable desire to smoke a cigarette, and it's kind of like the AA model of kind of trying to quit drinking, is that you feel when you break and you actually go back and use the drug again, the drug of nicotine, that you automatically kind of feel that you've fucked everything up. All the good work you've done is for nothing because you've broken and you're smoking again. And I had that. I had that after a month. I was like, oh God, I'd love a cigarette. And I was being so annoying to my girlfriend at the time and all her friends that she basically said, can someone please give Ed a cigarette so he will shut the fuck up? And I felt kind of bad, but I took a Benson and Hedges off someone and I smoked it. And immediately I was like, oh, this is disgusting. It's weird because, I mean, so much of it is habitual. There is a physical thing to it. Like they say that quitting smoking is like smoking is more addictive than heroin. Now, I don't know about that, but I think it's because it's easier and it doesn't really, knock you out the way I assume from, having never done heroin but seen lots of movies, that, you don't get that kind of crazy, floating in the sky, sinking into the carpet, kind of better than any fucking cock kind of train spotting vibe. And, I've had a lot of cock, so it's got to be, if it's going to be better than all the cock I've had, then, of course, I'm talking about male chickens. Yeah, it was kind of depressing when I did kind of fully go back on them because I can't even remember how. Like, it was like, I think just someone said to me, hey, you want a cigarette? And I was like, yeah. And I think I was like living in Cork. I was hanging out with friends in college and we were kind of smoking a lot of hash. So you'd smoke hash in a joint, which would have tobacco in it anyway. So it's kind of like, in that way, it is a gateway drug, but it was a gateway drug to tobacco, which is kind of unusual. Normally it's it would be to a stronger drug, but it's actually a gateway drug to a slightly weaker drug. And so you'd have like a rolled joint, and then you'd smoke a chaser, is what we used to call it. Like, in movies and kind of in gangster movies and American movies, where they'd have like a beer and then like a little whiskey. And I know a few friends who do that, but it was kind of like the chaser, like the alcohol, the nicotine equivalent of an alcohol chaser. So I'd have like a little tiny cigarette afterwards. And because I wasn't smoking Marlboro Lights, I wasn't smoking like, those kind of like horrible chemical cigarettes. I was smoking Rollie tobacco, which is kind of better for you, nicer for you. And that's how I got addicted to smoking Rollies. And the nice thing about Rollies is you can kind of fool yourself into thinking that you're smoking less. Because if you buy a packet of cigarettes, there's 20 cigarettes. You know exactly how many cigarettes there are. And if you get through like 2 packs a day, you're smoking 40 cigarettes a day. Whereas if you get a big pouch of tobacco, you can, it makes the tobacco last longer because you can roll thin cigarettes or slightly thicker ones, and you don't kind of keep count of how many you're smoking, unless you never ever empty your ashtray and count the butts at the end of the day. But who would do that? No one. So then after I went back on them, I figured, I'll smoke and I'll quit when I'm 25. And you go, if I quit when I'm 25, then that's a good quarter of a century. I still have time for recover. And then you don't quit when you're 25 and you think, okay, I'll quit when I'm, 30. 30 is good. I'll give myself 5 more years of inhaling nicotine and smoke into my lungs. And, you read these things that, if you quit smoking within 2 months or something, your lungs are completely clear. I don't know. I guess that's true. And then you just kind of lie to yourself and you keep putting it off. So I didn't do it when I was 30. I didn't do it when I was 35. I didn't do it when I was 40. And I was really determined to do it when I was 40. And I didn't. So now I figured you can't go anywhere. You can't see people. So I'll quit and I'll be grand. So the last couple of weeks now, I haven't been smoking. I haven't been drinking alcohol. And I've actually been feeling pretty good. I haven't taken anything to replace the cigarettes. I thought I'd be, eating more chocolate, eating more ice cream and stuff. Like I do have a kind of a sort of a carrot and stick approach where if I'm good, I'll give myself a little treat in the evening. And I've been having little I got those kind of ice pop things that you freeze and you eat them. And they're not that nice because they don't have any ice cream in them. They're just frozen ice pops. Because I used to do this thing. Well, I say used to. I mean, I still do. I haven't done it. I actually haven't done it in a while, but I used to do it at home. And I used to do it in every house that I lived in, where I get Club Orange or Coca-Cola. And I'd pour it 2/3 of the way into a mug. And then I'd put the mug in the freezer. And I'd freeze it, and then the next day I'd eat it with a spoon. I'd take it out, and it'd be kind of weird because there's probably some sort of scientific reason for it, but especially with the Coca-Cola, the water would kind of element of it would separate because it is just sugar water. You get kind of a very Coca-Cola-esque sort of lid on it, and then underneath it'd just be kind of sort of slightly watery, kind of Coca-Cola flavory kind of mushy ice. It was better with the Club Orange, but then sometimes I'd overfill it, or sometimes the mug would crack, and my mum would give out to me for breaking her mugs. But every house has at least 28 more mugs than it needs. Even here we have, and myself and Cara, it's just the two of us. We haven't had any visitors over. And even when we do, we don't have 24 people come over and everyone wants tea or coffee at the same time. It just doesn't work like that. But that was my kind of, my own version of a Mr. Freeze. And I like that frozen cola flavor. So I was getting those things, which were kind of small. I think Roundtree's do them, and they had summer fruits, apple and blackcurrant, orange and pineapple, which was the best tasting one. But they're no substitute for a good ice cream. And the other day, I was walking around the town because you have to get out and get a bit of exercise, keep the brain going, keep the endorphins flowing. You got to keep the brain going, and you got to keep those endorphins flowing. And if you're on a boat, you'll be rowing. And if you don't know, you'll be knowing. So I was singing that song out loud, walking around, and I said, I'll get some ice creams for myself and Cara on the way back, and it'll be a nice treat for us after dinner. Because for the most part, we're eating very well. I'm not drinking fizzy drinks. I'm not eating crisps. Not really that much chocolate. I mean, a few squares here and there, but it's good dark chocolate. And I said, yeah, ice creams. I've kind of been getting into ice creams as a sort of a mild substitute for the cigarettes. If I feel as well sometimes that I want to smoke, I'll suck on a Silvermint. Now, for people not from Ireland, that might sound like some sort of weird metal infused minty sweet, but no. It's just a mint. They just call them Silvermints. There's a rumor, or there's an urban myth that Silvermints reduce your sperm count. I don't know if that's true. I think Liam Gallagher of Oasis said that one time, and people took his word for it because he's an authority on fertility and mints. But I wanted to get ice cream. And I know Cara doesn't really like the sort of the iced drink variety. She likes the cream bit of chocolate, bit of cream, bit of iced cream, and I went to 3 shops. This is during a pandemic as well. No, I went to 4 shops. I went to Deals, which is a sort of a cheap shop. It's Deals with a Z, so you know it's good. There's another shop that's very similar. It's called Sense with a Z. So I think I'm kind of a bit of a ice cream snob, because I went to 3 or 4 shops and I wasn't happy with any of their ice cream selections. And I was kind of getting a little bit angry, a little bit frustrated, because I was like, and I don't know why, because look, the weather's been great. It's been like 26 degrees. So obviously people are buying lots of ice creams. But this wasn't a case of, they were sold out of all the good ones. They just didn't have any good ones to begin with. They only had like kind of shitty, like crunchy and Mars bar and Snickers ones. And I don't want like the ice cream version of a chocolate bar. I wanted like a proper one. And I didn't want the kind of Magnums. Like the Magnum ones are okay, but I wanted something like, if I'm going to get an ice cream, I want to get something that's, value for money, that I'm really going to invest some time in. And, I think my go-to one, if I can get it, is the Cornetto big one, they call it. It's basically like the Captain America of ordinary Cornettos. Like an ordinary chocolate Cornetto looks like Steve Rogers before he got the super serum, and then he got the super serum and he's become this massive, massive cone. Like it's so big. Like the normal Cornetto is like wrapped in paper and has just like a flat piece of cardboard on top of it, whereas this one is wrapped, but it has like a clear plastic dome guarding the very top of it, and there's like milk chocolate infused into the ice cream. It's unbelievable, and it takes about 15 minutes to eat. So it's a real investment. It's a real investment in your time. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. I'm not that huge a fan of kind of brunches. I think they kind of look like, someone described them once as sort of, it looks like some kind of rash, or it looks like something that got dropped on the ground and festooned, and they stuck a stick in it, festooned with dirt, and they stuck a stick in it. Is festooned a word? I think so. I'm just going to use it anyway. If festooned is not a word, I'm inventing it now, and the word means to be covered in various bits and pieces. So I was looking for, like, what I normally would go for is a strawberry Cornetto. I think they're nice, and then they kind of got a little bit fancy with the Cornettos, and they added like white chocolate to them, which I kind of enjoyed, but not really. And if I was to go for an iced one, as in just like frozen ice, I'd go for a Calippo or a Calipo, which is basically what I was talking about earlier on when I was freezing Coca-Cola and Club Orange and various things. Sidona. Maybe Sidona would work. I've never actually used Sidona, but Sidona frozen would kind of taste like a non-alcoholic frozen cider slushy. Maybe that'd be nice. I'm going to try that. God, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe I should start smoking again. I'm going to end up just ruining all of the mugs in the apartment by putting various things in the freezer. But the Calipos are the kind of closest thing to that. And I remember eating them before, and this kind of happens fairly often, but you actually end up cutting your tongue on them. I've been like eating them and like licking them, like, really going at them, like a horny porn star. I've just been licking the shit out of the tip of those Calipos, and then all of a sudden I'll see like blood on it and realize that I've been licking them so hard that I've cut my own tongue on the ice. And what do I do in that instance? I just keep on eating. Usually I'll squeeze it around the head again like a porn star, and I'll kind of crush it in, and then I'll like suck out those crushed bits and chew them and swallow them. God, if this is turning anyone on, I apologize, or you're welcome. And then I discovered something that I'd never realized before when I was looking through ice creams, that there is an ice cream that is in the Magnum family. And I'm not talking about Magnum P.I., the TV detective who lived in Miami, played by Tom Selleck. I'm talking about, Magnum have plain Magnum, they have the double chocolate, they have the caramel one, they have the white Magnum, which I actually quite enjoy. And then they have another one, which is raspberry. But they have another one, which I never realized wasn't raspberry. And I only realized that it was ruby chocolate. Now, what the hell is ruby chocolate? I didn't realize this. There is another type of chocolate. There's dark chocolate, there's milk chocolate, and there's white chocolate. And for years, they were the only chocolates you could get. But now, all of a sudden, in 2017, it's fairly recent, there is ruby chocolate, a brand new strain of chocolate. What a time to be alive and eating chocolate. Now, we came across this, myself and Cara have been watching MasterChef Australia, season 10 from 2018, which is on Amazon Prime. I also watched on Amazon Prime a show called Tales from the Loop, which is a kind of a science fiction show that was recommended to me by some listeners of the podcast who actually worked on the show. I watched the first episode, which is directed by Jodie Foster, and it's a kind of a strange, slow-burning, very interesting science fiction show, which I will continue to watch it. I just watched episode 1. I kind of guessed the twist. You might guess the twist in the first episode, but it continues, so I don't know what's going to happen in the next one. But it's very kind of cool. It's got a really cool aesthetic. It's one of those shows where it's science fiction, but it's got this kind of almost like 1950s aesthetic. The clothes, the cars, everything is like kind of old-fashioned, but not from any real specific era. So it could be at any time. Kind of timeless in that way. But it's quite good. But we're watching Australian MasterChef. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Australian MasterChef. It's very, very different to the English MasterChef because it's like about 50 episodes. There's like loads of elimination rounds and cook-offs, and people cook for immunity, and then they'll have team challenges, and it just goes on forever. But I mean, it's good TV because there's so much of it to consume. But then in one episode, they were cooking with this brand new chocolate that's just been invented called ruby chocolate. And I was like, what the fuck is ruby chocolate? And they were making a cheesecake out of it. And I was like, what? Huh? Never heard of it. So I looked it up, and it was introduced in 2017. So it's only like 3 years old. So it's from this Belgian-Swiss company. Barry Callebaut was working on it since like 2004, and it was patented. If you can patent chocolate in 2015, and it's got this kind of pinkish hue to it. Now it's a natural pink color. It doesn't have any unnatural coloring, and it comes from. They say it comes from, because they actually don't know where exactly it comes from, because the recipe is kind of like a secret, as a lot of these things are. Now it meets the standards that it needs to, from these standards that are set by the Food and Drug Administration for what constitutes chocolate. So it has to have a certain percentage of cacao, solids and fats, and it has antioxidants, spices, natural and artificial flavorings, but they cannot mimic the flavors of chocolate. milk, butter, or fruit. And it cannot contain additional colouring. These are the kind of, the guidelines set down. So it's made from ruby cocoa beans, which are basically a bean variety that haven't been fermented. So they have this kind of natural red-pink colour. And it kind of, I was watching the show going, right, can you get this? Does it exist? And I was looking it up. And initially, the first kind of bars of it were quite expensive. It was like, $4 for one bar of it when it was released in Japan. And then the first commercially available versions of it were from the Kit Kat company. Well, Kit Kat, which is owned by Nestle, which is an evil company. I'm not going to get into Nestle products, but, they're bad. So they had a Kit Kat, a ruby Kit Kat. And I think I remember seeing that at the time. And again, I thought it was like, oh, they've got like a red berry flavour or a raspberry flavour Kit Kat. I'm not interested in that. No, thank you. And I walked away. But no. And then I realised that they have ruby ice cream. And I bought 2 of them. So myself and Cara had 2 Magnum ruby ice creams. So it's, obviously it's ice cream covered in this ruby chocolate, and it's weird. It's got a kind of a slightly, it kind of tastes like a flower, like a sweet flower. It's weird. So yeah, I wouldn't really massively recommend them. They're okay. Like, they're not great. But they've only been out since January of this year. So they're a very new thing. If you want to try them, I would say, yeah, they're okay. We're going to end the show on Brendan Blowhard. He was missing for a while, presumed dead, but he's alive. He's been living in Dublin in an apartment. Unfortunately, it looks like himself and the missus, Susan, are not going to get back together. And also, he lost the band as well. He had a whole band backing him up that you've heard in previous episodes. If you haven't, check out previous episodes. He's not in every episode of the podcast, but he's been in a few. So, but he sent me a recording. He's got a ukulele, and it's just himself. And he sent me a song. So hopefully it won't go into sort of profanities and kind of off the wallness. But you never know with Brendan. So I'm just going to play it now. Again, without previewing it first or checking that it's okay. So give it up, and here's Brendan with his rendition of the Sinead O'Connor classic, Nothing Compares to You. Oh, Suzanne, oh. It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. Susan, I hate you now. I go out every night and I sleep all day. Since you took my clock away, I don't know what is the time. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. I can see whomever I choose. I wish I had some friends. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but I don't have enough money to even buy some shoes. I have the blues 'cause nothing compares. Nothing compares to you. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song, Like a bird that can't sing, nothing can stop this lonely tears from falling. That's the gravity. Where did I go wrong? I could put my arms around every girl I see, but they'd only remind me of you. And that's why we broke up. I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? He says it's never gonna clear up unless you keep using that cream I gave you. But he's a fool because nothing compares to use. Nothing compares to you. All the flowers that you planted, mama, in the backyard, all died when you went away. 'Cause I didn't water any of those flowers. I know that living with me, baby, was always hard. But I'm willing to give you another try, to put up with me, because nothing compares to you. Susan, I said nothing compares to you. Wow, amazing stuff from Brendan Blowhard. I really felt his heart breaking there. Guys, that's it for this episode. Thanks very much for listening. Take care of each other. Be safe. And I'll see you next week. Bye.